Hello, everyone. Hi. Anna Walker here with StabThingsIntoExistence.com. Welcome to the studio. Sorry I'm a little late today. Had some personal things to do, and so I'm here just a wee bit late. Tell me Tuesday. You're here in the studio, and I can tell you that the studio is a wreck, but that's going to change as soon as we get off here. Um, I do have a busy day, but it's a good kind of busy day and just got off to a different kind of a start than what I thought it would. I want to tell you about this new iron that I got. And they have another one that I'm going to look at because it will be very helpful for certain things. And I'll tell you about it here in a sec. I'm going to flip the camera down. So you can see that I have some felted scraps here. These are things that are going to become some really interesting, fun stuff. But ironing is always part of the process. Now, sometimes the traditional iron with a steam setting is really the only way to go, but then there are other times. This is the Cricut Mini. I think it's called the Mini. I already threw the box away, I think. Or is this the box? No, it's the Mini. Yes, I have it right here. Um, I picked this up because I am trying to keep things in my studio to have a little bit smaller profile. I got a lot of stuff in the studio, and I don't have necessarily a whole lot of space to have things. So I've been in this culling process, this bless and release process for over a year now. We had a couple of sales last year at this time of me letting go of supplies of old items that I'd created at a spring clearance sale kind of thing. So I'm working on finding ways to lessen the footprint of the items that I only use on occasion. And I think this is going to be one of those items. Now, this is the base that protects your surface. It looks just like a little iron, except it doesn't have any steam holes in it because it's not a steam iron. It's just a regular iron. And it has three settings. And when you poke the button, you either get one, two, or three lights. And I'm going to go for the hottest setting because a wool setting is usually a pretty hot setting. And when these lights magically turn green, then I'm ready to go. It is corded. I've got it plugged in, obviously, or I wouldn't have any lights. And we're just going to, wait for it to turn green. And then I'll show you how I go about ironing felt work to make sure that I don't melt any of the additions. I mean, some of these have some fibers in them that are acrylic and they would stick to the iron or they would melt completely off. So I'll show you how I go about looking to iron and flatten these things out just a little bit. It's never going to totally flatten out. I mean, if you've got a very textured surface, that textured surface is going to stay there, but it will still give you a little bit of freedom when it comes to flattening things out for making your, for mounting it to a canvas, for figuring out how this is going to live in a frame or not in a frame, and going from there. So we've got a lot of different pieces. It's still warming up, so I'm just going to talk. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to go. Hands of Anna Walker, yeah. I'm in a little bit of a goofy kind of mood right now, and that's okay. But these are just, random samples of felt that I've done, or they're end pieces of things that I've cut off for other projects, or they're samples. Hey, there's our green. Look at that bright green. Isn't that nice? Or there's samples of alpaca that I played with, another piece that was done with, for another project. Now, this piece, I don't know if you can see the sparkles, but those sparkles are something called Angelina fibers. And they did migrate through. But Angelina fibers are made of man-made materials. And so you want to make sure that you are pressing or ironing from the back side of anything that's got something like Angelina in it. And I like this mini little iron because unlike the big irons, it does not have a really huge point here at the end. It's rounded a little bit and it doesn't grab hold of things quite like the large iron does. Now this is Alpaca, and I'm just going to run this over. And some of those curled edges are going to stay there because that's part of how the fibers came together and how they felted together. But we can still flatten out some of this, make it a little less curly on the edges. Not a lot, but a little. And it's just easy and quick when I've got this tiny little iron. It's very easy to get into little nooks and crannies. If I have something that's rounded, I can get inside of there. And it just makes it that much easier for me to do one of these little finishing bits before I mount something. Or in this case, if it's something that I'm going to have to cut, I want to have it as flat as I can so that when I use my quilting ruler, I can, get a nice even cut on there. Felt is a little fiddly sometimes, and having a nice flat ironed piece of felt makes it much easier to pull in one of your quilting rulers to be able to mark it and then run your rotary cutter how it needs to be run to make it happen. So this is definitely a little workhorse, and it's going to get a lot of work during the course of the next few months as I start putting pieces together for my first, hopefully, my first solo show this fall. I have business goals to have 6 different $47 club classes up by the 1st of June, and I have a goal to have my first solo show in fall of this year. And I'm looking at this back and forth because I've got some sparkly fibers on both sides, and I think I'm going to iron on this side. Now, if you're ever concerned about some of those sparkly fibers, you can always cover this with a silicone ironing sheet. They can be found quite easily in the craft store and even, at the kitchen supply store. The silicone baking sheets that people use to make cool, wonderful little tuile cookies, or maybe they're making Florentine, something that's going to be really sticky and nothing sticks to the silicone. Well, the first silicone sheet I used for felting when I started 14 years ago was a silicone baking sheet, and it works beautifully. So see how that just flattens everything out, gives you a beautiful piece that can then be cut into smaller pieces, or is flat enough that you can work on getting that attached to your canvas. I want to do this really bubbly one, and then I'll pull all of these back in here, and you can see the fun that is this little Cricut Mini. Now, I told you that they've got another one. They have a hat-shaped one. Basically, it's a curved, it's got a curve like this, the iron does. So you can get on the inside of things like fascinators or hats. And it's actually, frankly, made for people to do little embossing or little appliques to ball caps. But I love the idea of the rounded iron. Now, the only issue has been that I've seen is that apparently the support structure is made from walnut hulls. So if you have anyone that's allergic to walnuts, you wouldn't want to utilize the base that it gives you to work around. But I want to see one in life, in real life, instead of just looking at it online. But you can see, even though this flattened out a good portion, it still has all of that beautiful texture coming right in here where those bubbles are sort of where the fiber is wrinkled up. Some people call that a crocodile skin, you know, because the fibers migrate and they attach in different areas. So you still get those areas, but everything else has been nicely pressed down so that you can then cut, trim, whatever you need to do for the next part of the project. So that is Tell Me Tuesday today, telling you, let's turn it off. It's got cute little sounds too. Telling you about, and look at this. I mean, this is hot, but I can hold it in the palm of my hand without any problem when I've got the base on it. So I like this little iron. It's going to replace my big iron for certain. I'll bring out the big iron when I've got a big piece that needs to be ironed, but for smaller pieces, I'm glad I've got this little guy that I can depend on. So that is our Tell Me Tuesday. Tomorrow will be WTF, What Felt Wednesday, and I will see you back here then. In the meantime, thanks for being patient with me being a little late today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.